Okay, our next section, we need to talk about something called proportions. And for topic one, we're just going to learn how to write out a proportion mathematically. So we have a couple of definitions that we need to review. The first is for that of a ratio. So a ratio is a comparison of two quantities, okay? So it expresses how much one thing there is compared to some other quantity, okay? And then we talked about rates already. We talked about this in the previous section. A rate is a special type of ratio comparing two quantities, but the two quantities have to have different units, okay? And that leads us to a proportion. So a proportion is a statement that two ratios or two rates are equal. Okay. Now remember, we write ratios and rates as fractions. So when we talk about a proportion, it's an equation made up of two fractions set equal to each other. Okay. Now, for example one, it says write each statement as a proportion. So we're going to have just like a really generic statement written out that has a mathematical proportion inside it. So let's see how we would write this proportion out. So for part A, it says 24 right is to 6 wrong as 4 right is to 1 wrong. So in a statement like this, the word as is going to separate the two ratios, or in this case, the two rates. So we know that as ends up translating to our equal sign. Okay. Now everything before the word as is going to be our first rate. So we have 24 right divided by 6 wrong. So that is our comparison of two quantities, 24 right, 6 wrong. And then the word as becomes our equal sign. And all we have to do is from one proportion to the next, we have to make sure that our units line up horizontally. So in my second rate, I want to make sure that rights are in the numerator and wrongs are in the denominator. So I would say 24 right is to 6 wrong as 4 right is to 1 wrong. And that is a proportion. Okay. And we can do things with these proportions, which we'll learn about that later in this worksheet. Okay. Now for part B, we have 32 Cubs fans is to 18 Mets fans as 16 Cubs fans is to 9 Mets fans. So everything before the word as is going to be our first rate. Equals is going to be the word as, so you see the word as is our equal sign, and then everything after as is the second rate. So let's write it out. So for our first rate, we have 32 Cubs fans to 18 Mets fans as, and then for the second rate, we have 16 Cubs fans to 9 Mets fans. And that's it. That's writing proportions. So a lot of the problems that we're going to see, we're going to have proportions kind of mixed into a story problem. So they're not going to be quite as direct as this, but you're basically looking for one comparison that you know to be true, and then at least part of another comparison. And then we can build a proportion from there. Okay? So that is writing proportions. We'll look at a few other things with proportions for now.